Hello, good morning to all of you. So in today's class, we learn about passing object as function arguments. So object can be passed as an argument to a particular function, either using call by value or call by reference. So just listen to me carefully. Objects can be passed as an argument to a function using call by value or call by reference. So let us try to understand it with the help of an example. So here what I have is I have a class complex where we have two data members which are placed in the private section, that is real and imaginary, and these are of type float because a complex number has a real part and an imaginary part. Okay, and in the public section of the class we have two member functions. Actually, we have three member functions. The member functions are get data, put data, and add. So here what I've done is I've defined the function inside the class. So get data is capable of reading the value of the real part and the imaginary part. Put data is capable of displaying the value of the real part and the imaginary part in the format of the complex number. And add is a function that takes in one reference. So if you recall it, we have already discussed reference variables. Reference variables are allies to the variables, and what you can do is you can access the value of the variable using the reference variable. So here passing one reference, passing two values of two variables. Now just see here the variables are of type complex, right? Variables are of type complex. So here complex is a class. That basically means what I'm passing is I'm passing reference to an object and I'm passing value of two objects, right? So C to C3 dot real, what assigning is I'm assigning C1 dot real plus C2 dot real, and to C3 dot imaginary I'm providing sum of C1 dot imaginary C2 dot imaginary. So what I'm doing is I'm adding the real part of the two complex numbers and I'm placing it in the third complex number, and I'm passing adding up the imaginary part of two complex number, placing it in the third complex number. So C1 and the values of the real part of C1 and C2 and the values of imaginary part of C1 and C2 are added up and placed in C3. So now here what I have is I have complex variables A, B, and C. Now A dot get data, B dot get data, C dot add CAB. So what I'm doing is I'm calling function add, right, by passing C. So C, A, and B. So C3 will be a reference to the object C. Okay, C3 will be reference to object C. So C3 will be reference to object C. A will get copied to C1, B will get copied to C2, right? So C3 will be reference to C, and A will get copied to C1 and B will get copied to C2, right? Okay, so then I'm displaying the value of C. So this is the way how what we can do is we can add up two complex numbers, right? We can add up two complex number by passing reference or by passing value. So here we are passing reference to C and we are passing values of A and B, right? So C1 and C2 will be copies of A and B, whereas C3 will be reference to C. So this is a very important program that you need to execute and you need to understand, because here what we have done is we have passed value as well as reference to a member function. Member function. So we have passed value of the object as well as reference to the reference of the object to a member function in order to perform manipulation. Now let us try to understand next important concept that is called as friend function. Now a friend function is a function defined in C++ that can have an access to protected and private data members of a class. Right? Okay, again I'll repeat it. So if a function is defined as friend function, then the protected and the private data member can be accessed using the function. Right? So how can we make a function friend function? So by using the keyword friend, compiler knows that the given function is a friend function. So this is very much important. So if you want to access the protected and the private members of a particular class, then what you can have is you can have a friend function defined in the class, right? Okay? But friend function is not a member function. I'm repeating it. A friend function is not a member function, but it's a friend to a particular class. So for accessing data, the declaration of the friend function should be done inside the body of the class with the keyword friend. So in order to have a function declared as friend function, so it has to be placed as a friend function inside the class, or it has to be declared friend function inside the class, right? Okay, then what we can do is we can have an access to the public and the protected member as well. So just see here, friend function is function that is defined in C++ and that allows for access to the public and the private members as well. In order to make a function friend function, we need to use a keyword called as friend, which will let the compiler know that it's a friend function, not a member function. And for accessing data, the declaration of the function has to be done within the class. So that's an important part that you need to understand. So how to declare a friend function? You see, we have a class name, okay, right? Inside that I have the function. So it is same as that of a normal function declaration, but what I need to have is I need to have a keyword friend. So now just see here, the function can be defined anywhere in the program like a normal C++ function. So whenever your function is declared as a friend function, it can be defined anywhere as a normal C++ function. But what you need to ensure is that whenever you make a reference to the function, what we need not provide is we need not provide the scope resolution operator or the keyword friend. So this is very much important, right? Okay. So as if we are defining the function outside the class, normally what do we do is we provide scope resolution operator and the name of the class. Now, since friend function is not a member function, so what we need not do is we need not provide the friend keyword or the scope resolution operator. So this is a very important aspect of C++ programming. That's friend function. So again, I'll repeat it. Friend function is a function that allows to have an access to public or protected member of a particular class, but you need to ensure that the function is placed inside or it's declared inside the class, and it's declared with the keyword friend, so that the compiler knows that it is a friend function and not a member function, right? Okay. Now it can be defined anywhere in the class, but you need to always ensure that since it's a friend function, so you need not use the scope resolution operator or the keyword friend. So let us try to understand it with the help of examples. So before that, let us learn few of the characteristics of friend function. So the friend function is not in the scope of the class. So you see, this is very important statement that you need to remember. Friend function is not within the scope of the class. It's not in the scope of the class, but it's friend to that particular class, right? Again, now it cannot be called using the object, as it's not within the scope of the class, right? It can be invoked like a normal function without using the object. It cannot access the members names directly and has to use an object name and .member access operator in order to access the member. So in order to access the member, what it has to do is it has to take the aid of the object and the member access operator, as we have discussed in the previous class, right? Okay. Now it can be declared either in the private or the public part of the program. Okay, so you see, it can be declared either at the public or the private part of the program, or public or private part of the class, right? Okay, rather. So these are the few important characteristics of friend function. So friend function is not within the scope of the class, right? Okay. It cannot be accessed using the object of that particular class. It has to be invoked like a normal function. It cannot access the members directly. What we need to do is we need to take aid of the object and the member access operator, and it can be declared in the public or the private section of the program. Now what we have is we have a very simple program that expresses the behavior of the friend function. So here what I have is I have a private member. So I have two class B and class A, right? Okay, class B and class A. So class B is defined somewhere else, right? Okay, class B is defined somewhere else because here what I'm doing is I'm using the object of class B. So in order to prevent the problem of forward referencing, so what I've done is I've declared it here, right? Okay, so you can go about in this manner. So class B, then we have class A. So I have a private member X, right? Okay, and in the public domain of the class, what I have done is I have defined a function that is set data, so it is capable of reading value into X, right? So since X is a private member, I cannot directly do it using the object. So what I need to do is I need to do it through the member function. So X is initialized with I, and then I have a friend function min, right? So minimum is capable of determining a minimum of A and B, right? Okay, minimum of object A and B. So I have declared it as friend. So it is not within the scope of the class, but it's a friend function. Now likewise in class B, I have int y. Now public set data. So set data, again I'm reading the value into the variable y, because since it's a private member, I cannot do it using the object, so I need to do it using the member function. So it is, so I'm reading the value into y, and again I'm placing the friend function here. Just see friend void main, because this particular function is friend to both the classes, so it basically implies it's friend to A as well as friend to B. Now what I've done is I have defined the min function. So you see here it's a very simple function definition. So void min, here I'm passing A and B, small a and b, small b, which are objects of capital A class and capital B class. You see, we have said that we can access the members using the object of the class and the member access operators, right? So here, what we are not providing is, we're not providing the keyword friend, neither we are providing the scope resolution operator, because it's not within the scope of any of the class, neither A nor B. Okay. So here, if a dot x is less than equals to b dot y, then c. I'm determining the minimum value. So it is c out a dot x, or else c dot b dot y. So what I'm doing is I'm determining minimum out of the two values x and y belonging to two different objects of two different class using the friend function. Okay. So now I have object A being declared for class A, object B being declared for class B. Then I'm setting the value 10 and 20 to x and y of A and B, and I'm calling the function min. So min here is a friend function that will determine the minimum amongst two, so it will give me 10. So in today's class, what we have learned about is, we have learned about what is an array of objects, right? Again, now how to create array of objects, how to read data into array of object, how to display data from array of objects. So what you can do is, you can read student record and sort it in accordance to your requirements. So you can write program for that. Okay. Now then, we have learned about a passing object as a function argument. Okay, where what we have is, we can pass object using either call by value or call by reference. So we have tried to understand it with the help of an example, where we have set a portion of the argument as call by reference, and put a portion of argument as call by value, right? So here we have implemented a program that's capable of adding two complex numbers. Okay, so this is a very important program that you need to execute. And then we have discussed a friend function. So we have discussed the importance of the friend function, the way how it has to be declared. We have learned about characteristics of the friend function, and we have tried to understand friend function with the help of an example, right? So this brings us to the end of this particular class. Thank you very much.